Welcome, I'm your host Malcolm Gallagher. From our BizVision studios in the UK, you're watching the Conscious Matters show on the BVTV network. Our two core themes for the first quarter of 2021 are Awaken and Go 21. We're saying businesses need to awaken from the slumber or retreat caused by the pandemic and Brexit. We're saying businesses need to awaken to new opportunities created by this altered world. And we're saying businesses need to awaken to the social changes and the conscious agenda that have been accelerated in this last year if they want to achieve the growth of Go 21. The conscious agenda is essentially about planet, people, and profits. 2020 awakened some businesses to the value of their people. Now they need to heighten that awakening if they are to be admired and recognized businesses of now and the future, a conscious business. But the whole people agenda can be seen as not easy, which is why I'm welcoming back a former guest who truly knows about people. Phoenix 51 is a state-of-the-art talent assessment platform, enabling organizations to make data-driven decisions along the employee journey, from hiring through to benchmarking and development. That's deep. So let's say hello again to former winner of the Apprentice and CEO of Raw Talent Academy, the mastermind behind the Phoenix 51 platform. Welcome, Lee McQueen.
Brilliant. Welcome. Hello, Malcolm. Thanks so much for having me back. I'm delighted to be here. And what a fantastic introduction.
I took ages to write it, Lee. Couple of glasses of wine no, move on from there. Look, Lee, I took a little longer than usual in my opening piece to lay the lawn for our chat, as I truly believe that businesses need to really awaken to the people part of the conscious agenda. Awaken more than simply talking about mindfulness. How does Phoenix 51 help here?
Well, I think the technology and the platform itself is all about behavior. It's all about people's behaviors and competencies and what they can actually produce, or the employees or the staff can actually produce within their role. So if it's role specific or, around that kind of personality and behavior piece. And I think that if 2020 has taught us anything, if we learned anything from 2020, is that, the people in our businesses, the people that we're bringing into our businesses are absolutely critical and crucial. And they're, not like you say, well-being or mindfulness is actually is critical, no more so than throughout 2020. So, I think that by understanding the behaviors, the key traits, the key personalities, if you like, of our individuals, of our people, is going to enable us to be better equipped, because we understand, so that we can actually put together either development programs or have just simply Malcolm, conversations and that communication, and having what we call stand-ups every morning or every week, to have a stand-up when people are working from home. They're remote at the moment. They feel like sometimes they're on their own, very much so over the last kind of, well, forever really, but kind of 10, 15 years, it's been in an office environment where everybody's together, and all of a sudden in 2020 that got taken away from us. It's really important that we keep that communication channel open, and actually by talking to people and understanding who they are, understanding what their behaviors are, is going to be critical in that process. And that's really where Phoenix 51 comes into that whole piece. It's not just about communicating, but it's about communicating around their key personality traits or their key behaviors. And I think anybody watching, anybody listening, anybody that's running businesses or in management level will understand and will know that when you're talking to people, when you're managing people, when you've got a business full of people, you have to be open. You have to have open communication channels with them. But it's not just about communicating, saying, Malcolm, you will do this or you will do that. It's understanding, Malcolm, what do you need? What tools do you need in your role to be able to produce and to be able to produce your best form, for want of a better expression? If I can use a sports analogy, it's a little bit like that coaching all the way through. And you get top class athletes such as, whether or not they're in the NBA, whether or not they're in the NFL, whether or not they're playing football or soccer, whichever side of the pond that you're on. So, you get top class athletes and they get coached every single day. So, to be able to have that communication, to be able to have that coaching element, understanding the personality traits, the behaviors of individuals that work for you, I think that contributes to that what you talked about before, that mindfulness as well. And that's how we can awaken everybody in 2021 to actually say, what is it we want to achieve this year? What do we want to do over the next kind of, maybe 12, 24, 36 months? That's a long goal. What about the next 3 months? What about the next month? Short-term goals, biting off chunks that you can chew, bite-sized chunks, in other words, that we can actually start to, rebuild, repair some of the damage that this horrible virus and this global pandemic has done to not only our businesses, but also our mindfulness as well. So biting off bite-sized chunks that we can chew so what can we achieve in the next month? What can we achieve in the next 8 weeks? What can we achieve in the next 12 weeks? And if we can start to drive our people, our employees, our staff in that manner, they will be more productive, they will feel more motivated, and ultimately our business or our businesses will also grow off the back of that as well. And that for me is where it understands that, keeping that communication channel open, understanding the personalities, the behaviors, the traits of our individuals, so that collectively we can achieve what we want to.
Yeah. What I really like, Lee, about Phoenix 51 is the consistency of care that it delivers, because far too many leaders dip in to, a staff for a couple of hours and then forget about that staff for a couple of months and so on, and far too many do corridor appraisals, which is even worse. Well, they can't do the corridor these days, but they'll do a Zoom appraisal, and it's just not inconsistent, isn't it?
I completely agree, and so I'm going to get a bit on my soapbox a little bit, but
that's
one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons why we developed the platform as well, because you bring up, Malcolm, about appraisal. How many people around the world do that corridor approach or the water cooler approach, or let's have a 20-minute conversation. Right, I'm reviewing you, Malcolm. You've been here with us for 3 months. How do you think it's gone? Yeah, it's gone pretty well. Fill out this form. Okay, I'll fill out this form. Okay, there's your key actions. Off you go. I mean, how productive actually is that? The employee doesn't want to do it. The employer doesn't want to do it. The manager doesn't really want to do it. And it's just almost a tick box exercise. Well, actually, if we're understanding through that communication, through them key behaviors and competencies, if we're gamifying that process, putting people through business style tasks, or understanding what they are, understanding where their strengths and weaknesses are, giving them some real data against their, where they need to make improvements on, the employee gets some development out of it, which is exactly what they need and want in their career development. So that means that they're fresh, they're always being developed. The employer gets exactly the key data points of where they can improve, and actually starts to coach that individual as well. And the business as a whole gets more productive, a productive employee and employer. So for me, it makes it interesting, it makes it relevant, and again, it's really important. And I go back to the first point I made. These annual appraisals, they don't work. What we should be doing is 3 monthly at the most. We need to be talking to, keeping transparency, and no more so now than when everybody's working remotely. You can't even do like you just said, Malcolm. We can't even do the corridor approach because we're not even in the corridors anymore because of a third national lockdown, certainly in the UK. So it becomes really, really relevant to actually, just take a step back and say, ask ourselves the questions: how are we developing our employees? How, if I was an employee of me, what would I want to see from our process? There's some brilliant processes out there. I'm not just saying you have to use Phoenix 51. Of course, I'm biased, but actually, there's some fantastic processes out there. But for me, it always comes back down to that kind of that basic piece: is humans love humans. We love interaction, we love connectivity, and if we have to do that virtually via Zooms or Teams or Phoenix 51 platforms, and there's lots of different platforms out there, if we have to do it via that because of the situation that we're in, brilliant, but let's utilize that and make sure that we are checking in, that we are doing stand-ups, that we are being kind and making sure that we're communicating and understanding our staff's situation. We talked about it before. You can probably see over my shoulder, I've got 3 young girls. So I've got identical twins that are 7 and my eldest is 9. They're all homeschooling. How many people in the UK and across the world are homeschooling right now? As employers, as business owners, as we have a responsibility to make sure that we're delivering not only results for our shareholders and for all of the business reasons, but also to our employees as well. And I think the two are connected.
Yeah. I did bump into one interview, by the way, where somebody told me that they've been talking to their business leader over Zoom for the first few times, and they said, "Oh, I didn't realize you were married and had children."
Wow.
Wow.
Exactly that. So again, it's, as a CEO of a startup organization, there's we're nearly 20 of us now. Actually, so there's 19 of us now, and we're in our growth stage. But we're a very small business. Okay, so it's relatively easy as the CEO and the founder to get around all of our staff. When you've got a CEO of a multinational company who've got 100,000 employees or 20,000 employees, it's very different. But again, putting out a key message out there, using video technology. I know we've probably had enough of video technology in 2020, but it's the way we are. So embracing it and actually putting out a video message to say, a message from me, this is what we're doing, this is where we're going to be, this is what our goals are. Individual managers within that, said organization to be able to break that down. And that's what I come back to, bite-sized chunks, is that everybody, from a leadership perspective, we want to see that we're visible. We want to be led. That's the other human trait, is that people like to be led. People like to know the direction that they're going. So again, coming back to communication, if we're transparent and are open about where we're doing, the challenges that we're facing as a business, the challenges we're facing across the planet, if we're open and we talk about that, it can only be a benefit. Hiding things under the mat or putting it in the top drawer and put it in the cupboard, it doesn't work. It's only going to come out, and fester later on in life.
Yeah, totally. Now, we're talking at the beginning of 2021, and optimism is high here in the UK, what with a Brexit deal and a COVID vaccine in place. But we're not out of the woods yet, and nor are many other countries who may be customers for us. Change will continue. Do you think companies need to be reassessing their talent needs now if they're to move forward? And if so, how should they go about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's three big key things happening just in the UK at the moment, and you've touched on two of them, and that's obviously COVID, Brexit, and also IR35 as well, which certainly in the recruitment industry and in the UK is a big thing happening as well. So I think it's inevitable, Malcolm, that organisations or businesses need to start reevaluating and having a look and seeing whether or not they need to adapt or into change into different things. I think that in terms of evaluation of staff and looking where they're at, let's be honest and transparent in terms of the communication piece. There's lots of businesses that have been decimated by COVID-19 through 2020. And a lot of organizations will be looking at saying, we had this plan in 2020, we're now going into 2021, that plan's different. So we need to adapt. We need to change what that plan looks like. And actually, that's why I was saying earlier about, looking at 3 months ahead rather than, 12, 24 months ahead, because we don't know what the key impact is going to be. I think what's really important is that if we are assessing our employees or our staff, is that we're doing it in a way whereby we can make sure that we get to the right decision for our employees and for our staff, but also for the business as well. I think we're always changing. I think something is always happening, always changing. One of the key changes probably that we'll be seeing in 2021 from an office-based businesses. So I appreciate there's a lot of businesses that don't use office space, but office-based businesses are up to maybe 45, 48% of the office won't go back into the office. That's a huge impact, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a huge impact on the way that we work, the way that we are now, the way that we interact. Having remote workers gives the employees an aspect that they probably didn't have before. A 2-hour commute, for example, an hour and a half commute, eradicated. Being able to spend time with the children before we put them off to school, that's now coming to the fray. So to be able to demand them when the vaccines hit and we're all back to normal, to demand back to we're going back to how it was 18 months ago, as it may be in the end, I don't think that's going to happen. So that change is already being put into place, and I think it's about embracing it.
I was in Atlanta, Georgia the other day, and a major brand, which probably most of us have got somewhere in our house, they've just said to their people, go away, don't come back, you're not coming back ever. Go and live wherever you want. You're going to work remotely for now onwards. And that's a major, major brand. You know about teams. After all, you led yours to victory a few times in The Apprentice, and then you won yourself. So far, we've talked about people and teams. But what about the need for new leaders in 2021 and beyond? We're suggesting that conscious leaders, aware, awakened, caring, will be key. But surely to many that sounds soft, and that in the present competitive world we need tough, agile, go for it leaders. What's your thoughts here? Or is there an opportunity for a new hybrid leader? And if so, what does he or she look like?
I think it's really interesting when you talk about weakness and you talk about looking weak or being soft. I think there is a balance. I for one, whether or not this is right or wrong, so please, you can all judge me, I suppose, but I like balance. So I think that we should be, we set a stake in the ground as to where we want to go to, which is a starting point, and then we do a work backwards. So, whether or not that's a 3-year plan or a 1-year plan or a 3-month plan, as we've just been talking about, and whether or not that's an individual as a career person, whether or not that's a student that is looking to get into work, or whether or not that's a CEO or a leader in a multinational business, I think that approach works. And I think that, for because of the times are changing, we need to make sure that, 20 years ago, when I first started my career in recruitment, for example, it would have been absolutely unacceptable to work from home, absolutely unacceptable to not do 15, 16-hour days in the grindstone. That was your kind of, certainly for me, that was your learning, that was your kind of your, where you're kind of learning your craft, so to speak. Fast forward to today, and it's completely acceptable to work from home. We have to, from a national perspective, and we've got almost, can I use the word, used to doing that sort of stuff. So I think it is really important. The hybrid era, what he or she looks like, I think it is about understanding. I think there is that caring element in there. It is understanding that we're not all in the same boat, but we're certainly all in a similar situation. We can identify now with, that my dog might walk in at any period of time, or one of my children might walk into the office, and that would never happen in a boardroom scenario, would it? To 18 months ago, it just wouldn't have happened. So we've had to embrace new technologies and use that. But I think as human beings, we kind of understand that, what, Malcolm and myself and all of our clients, there's been many times where I've been on a meeting with a client in this kind of scenario, and their dog's walked in, or their children have come in, or they've asked a question, or someone's gone at the door, and it's probably the delivery man, probably from Amazon worldwide, to be fair. But all of these things happen, and I think it brings a smile to your face, because that's normal. Like, there's no persona anymore. Do you understand what I mean, Malcolm? It's almost like the barriers have been broken down, and instead of that, that tough exterior leader, we must do it the way that we are. Actually, that's been broken down now, and actually, I'm not talking to you as the founder, the CEO, or the boardroom extraordinaire. I'm talking to you as Lee, and I think that's helped flourish relationships. I think that's helped flourish businesses. And I think, when we're talking about AWAKEN, when we talk about 2021, let's utilize that. Let's go back to that kind of that human nature of, at the end of the day, I'm not trying to sell you something that you don't want. I'm not trying to take you down a route that you don't want to be in. I'm not trying to get you out of our organization, whatever the situation might be. I'm just trying to talk to you as Lee and Malcolm. And actually, if I can understand you, Malcolm, as an individual, and understand what's going on in your world and in your life, that gives me a much clearer understanding or opportunity to be able to develop you as an employee, or to bring you on board as a new client. So I just think that, that openness and that the barriers that we've shrunk during 2020, that's what we've got to learn from, and that's what we've got to utilize in 2021. I think for me, leading teams, we all go through our ups and downs. We have some fantastic times and we have some bad times. And for me personally, it's the bad times that enable to see how good you are as a leader, to see how good your business is going to be. And if you can navigate through them bad times, you will be better for it. So I think anyone that started a business in 2020, or anybody that's got a business that's gone through some, let's be honest, some really tough times, and you're now seeing a little bit of that light at the end of the tunnel, you're going to fly. Your business in 2021, 2022 and beyond is going to be fantastic, because all the learning that we've gone through, all the hardship, if you like, is going to give us that ability to be successful. And I'm a firm believer in that, Malcolm.
I totally with you, Lee. The only thing I'm going to sort of say, there's, yes, as we get relaxed, and I know the dog comes in, the children comes in, but you still got to enhance a bit of the professionalism that you've obviously got on screen. Unlike the CEO that recently, when I was talking to, and his wife walked down the staircase behind him in a see-through negligee halfway through the interview.
Well, I mean, it depends how you look at that, but I'm sure everyone was looking.
I had to put a big logo up to cover it. Lee, yeah. just before we move on to the next question, let's make sure everyone has taken down your URL, your website, so they can follow through on this interview. I'll read it out for listeners, but viewers can see it on the screen behind me. For listeners, it's www.phoenix, Phoenix, Phoenix5151, Phoenix51.io, Phoenix51.io. Lee, let's imagine that there's a CEO watching this. Well, hopefully there's lots watching, who gets what he or she needs to be a more conscious leader and make the people changes or improvement for the company's future. But the problem is, a traditional white male board who are resistant to people change and only interested in profits and balance sheets, and especially recouping pandemic losses. What would you say to that CEO to help him or her successfully get his people and the mission enthusiastically accepted by the board? And I'm talking commitment here, not just lip service agreement that falls away quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's one that it's a question that's difficult to give it some thought. I think that it's a question that will be posed very much around the world in terms of all different types of scenarios. And actually, when you bring in that kind of traditional white male board, we are looking to change as a community, as a business community across the world, that some of them key perceptions. I think, but I actually think one fuels the other, and I think that by understanding our people and actually understanding the key behaviors, key competencies of all of our staff, all of our people, all of our clients, understanding, that solution that we're bringing as a business to our customers and to our wider networks, that's the bit that actually fuels whether or not the traditional white male board are gonna make a change. Because if we can, almost like a business case, but if we can actually showcase to our boards, to our shareholders, that this is the way forward and these are the reasons why, because of the change in the world, because of the people, because of what we're doing, for me, that fuels the profits, that fuels the clawback, that fuels all of the things that you've talked about. So the traditional way of thinking is, if it's worked in the past, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And I think that's probably a bit of a mindset. But actually, our job as leaders and CEOs is to convince our board and to convince our shareholders that it is broken. So we do need to fix it. And this is why it's broken. COVID, different, not understanding different personalities, not understanding different people's needs and the way the world's changed. That's why it's broken. And this is our solution to be able to fix it. And actually, if we do this in terms of this is our solution, this is the outcome. Yeah. And that outcome will be the same outcome as what, unfortunately, them traditional white male boards, but that will be the outcomes what our shareholders and our board members want and seek. So for me, it's not necessarily approaching it, battling them, and actually, and look, it's easy for me. Look, there'll be listeners and watchers around there. There's no flies on anyone. Right? I am a white male, right? So I understand that, but actually bringing people into the business that are better suited to the key values and cultures and competencies of that business and of that role, that's the bit that to get right, regardless of race or color or creed or sex. It doesn't matter. It's getting the right people in to the positions so that we can actually make sure that we're doing a better job. And that's the bit for me that I would be using to convince my shareholders on my board, regardless of how long they've been long in the tooth, because it fuels the same thing, Malcolm. Does that make sense? Yeah. Our shareholders or our board are saying we need to claw back COVID losses. Okay. And I'm coming to them with a solution to say, this is how we're going to do it. It is broken. We need to change it. This is what we're going to do. And this is what the outcome is going to be. And if that's the case, they should, inverted commas, they should be happy with driving that change. And if they're not, and they want to stay with their traditional thought process, then maybe we should be thinking about changing our board members.
Yeah. And that, by the way, is one of the most popular modules that I've got on my site, how to sack a director. Right.
Yeah, well, there you go. It's interesting. I mean, I think again, if you're a startup, for example, and you're assembling a board, an advisory board, or you're putting a board together, Phoenix 51 was set up in September 2020, and we're going to have we've assembled a board now, world-class teams, absolutely fantastic. And we're going to have our first board meeting on January 28th. So it's our first one. So if you're in that situation, make sure that you're actually choosing the people that, again, when you're hiring people, when you're assembling a board, when you're bringing people into your organization, if they share your beliefs, if they share your views, if they share the company culture and values, you won't have this problem, will you? You generally, you won't have this problem.
Yeah.
If you're always bringing in the same people, you're always going to get, or the same personality traits, you're always going to get the same results. So don't be afraid to mix it up. Don't be afraid to bring different people in, different ideas. Bring people in that are better than you. I can tell you now for certain, Malcolm, in my board meeting on the 28th of January, I will not be the most intelligent or most knowledgeable person in that room, and I've done that on purpose. In actual fact, I'll probably be bottom of the pile, but yes, I'm a founder and a CEO, but the reality is I want good people around me to be able to drive our business to the next level and to deliver what we've promised that we'll deliver.
Excellent. I love that. Great. Now, penultimate question. What needs to be done to accelerate the performance change that Phoenix 51 delivers? Is it likely to be company driven internally, or externally driven by customers and investors, or even mandatory driven by governments?
Well, I think there's an education piece first and foremost. I think that when you've used a resume or a CV, as we call it in the UK, but resume across the world, to hire people for best part of 500 years, I think it dates back. Then there's that if it's not broken, don't fix it piece. You can't go on to a website, a job site, a job web board, or whatever it might be, and not have a CV. The first thing that you're taught in schools and colleges and universities, before to get you work ready, is you gotta write a CV. So there's still an education piece. My Raw Talent business has been running for 10 years, and I've been on my soapbox telling people let's hire based on personality and behaviors and competencies. And obviously that's where Phoenix 51, the platform, has come from as well. But there's still resume hiring, there's still CVs out there. So there's an education piece to look at as well. And I still think that there's that traditional way. I've always done it this way. I've always written handwritten notes. I've always jotted things down. I've always kind of done things off the cut. I've always hired on gut feel. That's the bit that you need to, again, take a step back and ask the question, is this the right way to do things now? We live in a world of pure data. There is data everywhere, Malcolm. Data on your phone, data on LinkedIn, data on, your CRMs, your ATSs. Everybody wants data. The weather forecast. We just want stuff. And the information that we fuel our brains with, and whether or not, we're in different eras to a lot of the audience as well. But, the new era coming through, the millennials, if we're still called that, or Generation Y, or whatever generation we're now on, they're in the knowledge side of things. So individuals want knowledge. They're thirst for knowledge, and that knowledge comes in form of books, in the form of internet, in the form of data. And actually, are we getting enough data on our people? Are we getting enough data understanding what are our company values, and what is our culture in our business? And do we want it to be like that? And if we don't, what do we want it to be? Have we given it that thought? So I know kind of gone off in a little bit there, but it's really important that we ask ourselves them types of questions, so that we can actually get back onto driving that performance and change. And I think for the best way, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, my experiences, the best way to drive change is to have people on board, to explain to people this is why we're changing, or this is why we think we should change. What do you think? How do we get people's input, the employees' input, your team's input, get everybody feeling a part of that change? Then it doesn't feel scary. When change feels scary, that's when it's difficult to get it over the line. And I think that's where it's really important. What are the benefits of change? What are the outcomes going to be? Shareholders and board, you're going to be happy because it ticks that box. You're going to be happy, staff and employees, because it ticks that box. It's going to make, and it's that sort of approach, rather than I've got an idea, I'm going to impose it on you.
So, Lee, final question. It's 2021, and you know our theme here at BVTV Network is Awaken. What three things do you want business leaders to awaken about?
I think Awaken, as you said right at the top of the show, isn't just about, well-being and mindfulness, although I think that plays a massive part. I think to me, Awaken is about understanding our people's needs and understanding that, Fiona and Rob in IT have different types of needs than what Malcolm and Lee need in sales, or what Heather needs in production. I think it's understanding our people and understanding what is our company values, what do we want to achieve, what's our company legacy. Yes, the shareholders or the board will give them a hard time today, but yeah, they want monetary value, they want finances or whatever it might be, and that's fine. But what is our purpose? Why are we here? Reevaluate why we have set up our business. And some people say it's because I want to get rich, or I want to be a millionaire, I want to sell the business. That's okay. But why are we actually here? Why did we set up Phoenix 51? Why did we set up our businesses, or why did we actually work in? And evaluating that way, I think for me, that's the key, one of the key points from an awakening perspective. I think it's that communication piece, number two, which we talked about before in depth, around kind of doing regular catch-ups, regular understanding, that key appraisal, understand where we are and what we're doing and how we're utilizing that. And I suppose the third one is that if we, in order to be successful in 2021, in order to awaken from the slumber, as it were, that we've been in 2020, and a lot of businesses haven't, by the way, Malcolm. A lot of businesses have been thriving, to be fair. But if we're gonna thrive in 2021, throughout and beyond, it's looking at them bite-sized chunks and saying, let's not look at the end of the tunnel yet. Let's look at right here, right now. What have we got? What can we do? How can we develop that? And almost like, if I can finish on a sports analogy, like I say, whether or not it's NFL, whether or not that's soccer or football, I'm a big football fan myself. You wouldn't set out and say we're going to win the Premier League, or we're going to win the Super Bowl. What you'd probably set out is, would like to do that, but this is how we're going to do it. So we've got an objective, but how are we going to do that? And we're going to take it a match by a time, one match at a time, go out there, win that football match. We've got tactics around that particular match to make sure that we win it. We put that one in the back pocket because it's done. We move on to the next one. We move on to the next one. And there's your bite-sized chunks. And actually, if you win enough matches and you do enough tactical analysis and win enough matches along the way, you end up winning the league. And that's a byproduct of your planning and your organization. So that would be my thoughts on that process.
Lee McQueen of Phoenix 51. It's been, as usual, an inspiration talking to you. Thank you for a great interview.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me back.